Shabbos Pesach. We are about to start the holiday of Pesach, and we are going to, at the Seder, we're going to say the Haggada, which includes the Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, the story of the Exodus from Egypt. And it's an important story. It's the beginning of our nation as a nation. And the Chazal say, the Gemara says, Kalamar b'lesaper b'yetzias Mitzrayim, harei meshubach. The more a person talks about the Exodus from Egypt, the more praiseworthy he is. So we cite the verses from Shemos, from Exodus, that describe, with which the Torah describes the Exodus and the interplay of Moshe and Paro and the 10 plagues, culminating with the Makas Bechoros, the smiting of the firstborn, and the Korban Pesach, and Yetzias Mitzrayim, and Kriyas Yamsuf, the Exodus from Egypt, and the splitting of the sea. Well, wait a second. We don't, actually. We recite the verses that the Torah in Devarim prescribes for a farmer who brings his first fruits. What is that all about? Why are we citing a recitation that the farmer cites when he brings his first fruits in the Haggada when we're talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim? So that's one question. I've got 4, not the standard 4, and not all the questions that could be asked. As a matter of fact, there's another question, which is that the requirement of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim is b'derech she'elo tshuva. We do it by asking a question and giving an answer. Why do we do that? Ironically, I'm asking a question and looking for an answer. But why is it that that's the method? Why don't we suffice with just stating the story? It's a story, well known. State the story. If you want to get into detail, go ahead. But why must it be b'derech she'elo u'tshuva, that with asking questions and giving answers? And now we'll ask another question. We have Dayenu, which is a well-known, perhaps the most well-known of the passages in the Haggada. Ilu hotzi anu mimitzrayim. So there are many ma'alos, there are many good things that Dayenu describes, that if we look at them, we say, are they really Dayenu? What does Dayenu mean? Dayenu means it would have been sufficient. What does that mean? It would have been enough for us. It would have been enough for us. Let's talk about it. Let's just jump in the middle. Had God given us the wealth of Egypt, but had not split the sea? Well, had he not split the sea, we would have presumably died at the hands of the Egyptians. Why would that be Dayenu? Even more. It says, had he split the sea for us and not brought us through on dry land, Dayenu, that would have been sufficient. Sufficient? It would have been disaster. What are we talking about? Had he fed us the man and not given us Shabbos? Jews without Shabbos? Had he drawn us close, Kervanu, with Ne'er Sinai? V'lo nasan lanu es haTorah. Had he brought us to Mount Sinai and not given us the Torah? Dayenu, that would have been sufficient. It would have been wholly inadequate. Why are we claiming that these actions, and there's more, you can look at them, they all ring the same bell, which is, okay, but enough? Hardly. And then finally, we have a general rule in the Haggada, which is maschil b'gnus u'mesayim b'shvach. We start with disparaging information, and then we end with laudatory information. What's the disparaging information? So there's the beginning is that there are 2 types. There's either that we were originally, our forefathers had served Avodah Zarah, foreign worship, not God, a false god, or many false gods. And the other is that we were enslaved and that we got free. Avodim hayinu l'far b'mitzrayim. Why is it so important to start with the bad? So let's talk about something a little bit less lofty, a little bit more mundane. Let's say there's a balabasta, a woman who is the woman of the house, who provides for her family. And she has a kitchen. The kitchen's old. It really doesn't serve her needs. And it's beginning to have, because of some water damage, it's beginning to smell kind of like a cabin in a camp, and it really needs to be redone. And periodically, she exclaims something like, I don't know, I hate this kitchen. And then she, perhaps with her husband's help, they redo the kitchen. And let's even say it's beautiful. And somebody walks in, a stranger walks in and says, oh, you have a beautiful kitchen. Well, that might in fact be the case. It might be a beautiful kitchen, but who appreciates it more? The person who has seen it for the first time and has never seen the wholly inadequate and somewhat uncomfortable former kitchen, or everybody who either the balabasta herself, who experienced the constraint of the previous kitchen and its shortcomings, and the family who experienced the angst of the balabasta. So clearly, the people who experienced the wholly inadequate situation will appreciate more the new one. Certainly, it stands on its own, but it's an even deeper appreciation if you know what it was like beforehand. So the ultimate goal of this appreciation is hakaras hatov. It's we typically translate hakaras hatov as expressing gratitude, but it's much more than that. Expressing gratitude is the consequence of a recognition of good, and the more you understand, the more one understands what could be and what could have been, and perhaps what was in the negative sense, the more one can appreciate and is in a position to give sincere thanks and expressions of gratitude for the deliverance from a previously bad situation. So why is it that we use the verses from Kisavo? So I have to give credit for the question, number one, to Dr. Gary Hoberman, who learns with my son-in-law, Rabbi Meir Simcha Stromer, and Meir Simcha told this over to me today, and I thought it was consistent with what I had intended to say, and it takes it to a new level. The farmer who says, Arami Oved Avi, that they tried to destroy us, and we went down to Egypt, and we got out of Egypt. Why is the farmer saying that? Because if the farmer understands that historically it didn't have to be this way, it wasn't this way. Historically, we did not have our own country. Historically, we were subjugated by a foreign people. And it's only after we were freed and brought to the land of Israel, well, then someone can express an even more profound appreciation. Everybody enjoys the fruits of their labor. Everybody enjoys beautiful fruits. But if you can dig deep and understand that in your history you had deprivation, and now you have bounty. Before you were subjugated and under the control of a foreign people, and now you're free and you control your own means of production. That is something that leads to profound gratitude, and that profound gratitude is sharpened and enhanced as a result of the contrast of maschil begnus u'mesayim b'shvach. Then we have the issue of dayenu. Well, certainly it would not have been as good had God split the sea, but we didn't cross through. Certainly it would not have been as good as if God had brought us to Mount Sinai and we didn't get the Torah. All of that is true, but what are we focusing on? Are we focusing on what we don't have, or are we focusing on what we do have? And somebody who focuses on what we do have is going to have a richer life. Is going to have a life filled with hakaras hatov. And the lesson of the Seder, it's not the only lesson, but a profound lesson of the Seder is to focus on what we have, on what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has done for us, and the contrast from where we came from to where we are now. And even the very methodology of She'elo U'Tshuva is it contains the core of this notion. A She'ela is a chisaron. A she'ela means that there's something I do not know, I do not have, and I raise it and I ask it, and then I get the tshuva, I get the answer. And if I get the answer as just a piece of information, a factoid, without having had the question, I will not appreciate it as much as if I had the question and it bothered me, and then I got something that satisfied me. That is, the she'ela is maschil begnus, starts off with something detrimental. My knowledge is detrimental. And the tshuva is mesayim b'shvach. The goal, perhaps the most important goal of the Seder, is to learn to cultivate this notion of hakaras hatov, of understanding that what we have isn't automatic, and it comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Our freedom comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And even though we aren't as free as we are destined ultimately to be, and that's reflected in the very opening lines of the Haggada, Hashata Avdi L'shan Haba B'nei Chorin, we are now still subjugated. Our nation is subjugated to the whims of the nations of the world. Not as much as it used to be, and not as much as it will be. We give Hakar Satov for every smidgen of deliverance that the Almighty gives us. Have a good Shabbos and a good Yom Tov. Chag Sameach, Chag Kosher v'Sameach.